Testing, testing. I think we're live or getting live.
Yeah, it's a good sign, I guess.
Yep, not there yet. Okay, I believe we're live. And good afternoon, everyone, or morning, or wherever you folks may be. This is Steve at Little Treasury Jewelers. And we have been off the air for a little bit, and now we're back on. And today uh, we have a very special guest, Matt Conable, who's the founder and creative director of William Henry. William Henry is a brand that we've been carrying for a bit over a year now. Makers of knives, pens, men's jewelry, and everyday carry items in our parlance. So we're going to bring Matt in to talk, and let's get him aboard. Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
I'm well, Steve. How are you?
I'm very well. So
Excellent.
we appreciate you coming aboard. You're out in Oregon. We have a bit of a time lag here. I guess it's what about a little afternoon in your
That's
turf,
right.
and
That's right. Just finished lunch and getting back to it.
okay, that's great. And so it looks like we have a pretty good connection going, and let's get into it. So Matt, it looks like you started your business back in 1996, is it? 97?
97. Yeah.
97, right. And so, in many ways, that sort of parallels our little treasury experience. We started in 1996, so we're both family owned startups and have a bit of the same history and a little bit off the beaten track kind of thing. So,
Uh,
that's great. So, give us a little synopsis of how you got into this game and what it is you're trying to do with your brand and your artwork that you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I tend to talk too much. I'll try to keep it short.
We'll help you.
So the brief story is I dropped out of college in 1989 in my sophomore year and took a job at a very small knife shop north of Santa Cruz, California. And I did that at the time because I wanted to be part of building something that was permanent. And I wasn't really a knife nut going into that, but that sort of combination of art and utility and form and function and soft and hard and light and dark and all the things that happened there, I thought was amazing. And so I started as a grunt in that shop. I eventually did finish up a degree on the side just in case, but I never really stopped making knives. So I was 19 then. And I ended up being a custom artisan for a while, having my own shop in Arizona, making everything by hand. And then when I was 27, I basically was given the opportunity to start my own company. Or I already had my own company, but it was all entirely what I could do with my hands as a single artisan, making every single component from scratch. But one of my collectors and aficionados of my work back then sort of said, "Hey, what if we partnered to actually create a company that was built around the kind of work that you do as an artisan, as a craftsman?" And that's where William Henry was born. Um, so we combined our middle names. Mine is William. His is Henry. He's no longer a part of the business, hasn't been for a long time. And I just set out to do what we still do, which is what's the best thing I can build today? What's the greatest value I can deliver, hopefully, and sort of stay true to my moral compass. And maybe there's a business there. But it's certainly something that I believed in. And so here we are.
Yeah, so it looks like you have 40 some odd people working for you right now.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Great accomplishment. I want to just note a couple of folks who've joined us. Carlos, I think, is from Panama, but I don't know where you are right now. You travel all over the place. And Blue Shirt Buddha, hi, how are you? And it looks like a few more joining us as well. So, Matt, can you show us a piece or two of what you're into?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to see how this works in the camera.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to start with a piece that we were just discussing, which is one of our, I'm going to see if I can get it up and hold it here. This is one of our new limited editions. This is a B12 belfry. And I'm going to open the blade with our one-handed thumb stud. And hopefully it registers okay in the camera, but it's hand-forged Damascus. It's a 140-layer Damascus blade, about a 120-layer hand-forged Damascus frame. For those of you who might not know, Damascus is taking different alloys of steel, of metal, and forging and twisting and combining and patterning together the way you would actually do taffy, only we're doing it with red-hot metal. And then those different alloys sort of reveal in the finished product. So you're looking at like a three-dimensional tapestry in steel. And what makes this extra cool is we've done a scale here of, oh, I got to get it up, I'm sorry. We've done a scale of banded agate. So it's a black and white agate that's been carved down with sort of a skull and floral pattern where the black starts to reveal as either black or gray through the white. So it's just beautiful, beautiful work. It took us about a year to figure out how to do this, and we're just in the middle of a limited edition.
Okay. Maybe you don't see this, but I have a good photograph of that watch up on the screen right now.
Knife.
How many artisans work on a piece like this? I know that some people work on the blade, some on the case, some on the. So in this particular case, what situation? What's the story?
Yeah. So an edition like this. Again, it was almost a year in planning and then about a year in production, all the way through. There's 30, maybe 32 different people involved, 7 shops in 3 countries involved. There's no, what we do, there's some stuff we do entirely here in this Oregon studio, from stem to stern. There's a lot of stuff we do where we've found somebody, whether it's a machine shop or an artisan doing an engraving technique or whatever it might be, somewhere in the world that's doing something we could never replicate at the level they've achieved. And so in those cases, we're reaching out to wherever we have to go to sort of bring this vision to life. And in a case like this, we're using multiple shops in the United States, along with a lot of work in our studio. We're working with Japan, we're working with Germany, and it's this big convoluted process. And eventually, if it all goes well, we get to actually deliver the goods.
So who actually does the designs?
I do the design.
Okay. And what is that? Usually just a rendering of some sort? And how do you tie that together with the really exotic materials that you're always bringing aboard?
Well, that's part of the fun is when I first started in general, whether it's jewelry, pens, knives, money clips, whatever, I build an architecture, I design an architecture that's pretty modular. So at a certain point, everything has to stay together. Like that part has to stay with that frame, has to stay with that blade. But early on, I've got this ability to combine different things. So as we find really cool materials, or a really cool engraver or an amazing silversmith or whatever it might be, we're able to sort of take that artistry and say, how does that marry to this amazing new material we have, and actually modularly create um, basically a new knife or a new money clip or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
based on an existing sort of template design that's sort of one of our classics. That's this go-to in terms of form and function and utility and ease of
Right.
carry and comfort of use. Yeah.
So, talking about materials, I've got. I'm going to bring up a couple of uh, pens here. One is uh, acorn caps.
Mm-hmm.
What's who came up with that idea?
Well,
And how was that done? I mean, this is very interesting. This is
yeah,
the brown pen I'm rotating here,
yeah,
and
yeah. So
go ahead.
the story there is, I mean, we use a lot of fossil materials and meteorite and these
Hmm.
crazy exotics and natural shells and various things, but with things like acorn caps and coffee beans and pine cones and all of these sort of modern organic materials, what we've there are a few people in the United States that we work with that have figured out how to take all of those materials and capture them in a super durable sort of reinforced
Hmm.
acrylic resin. So they're actually taking a beautiful sugar pine cone
Hmm.
and encasing that whole thing with resin. And once it's completely dried and vacuum sealed and everything, or in this case, acorn caps, we can cross section that and create pieces out of it that reveal whatever that organic is. So it's
Yeah.
this sort of strange new world of all of what's possible. And people that are doing that and have figured it out are constantly playing with, what if I use this and I put it into the resin? What if I use this? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, they're beautiful in any case. I really love the work. In fact, I've gotten uh, into the game a little bit myself, and I'm going to just put up my little personal collection that I've acquired from you. And
Oh, awesomeness.
I rarely do this, but I've got three pieces. They'll show up to you in a minute. We do have lag time. Everybody knows that by now. And I don't have all the names down pat, but I tend not to buy too much of what we sell. But I did end up getting three of your pocket knives, and
I'm very flattered. Thank you.
it's great work. And so I have little uses for each. I have the titanium one that I'll use for more day to day and maybe open boxes, do things like that. And another one I might use to peel my apple. And they're a lot of fun. And one thing I do hear from people is there, as they say, it's art, and how can I possibly use this? And I think you have a different take on that. Maybe you'd like to expound.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of the constant. I mean, ever since I started making knives and making stuff sort of at this level, there was that. There's always that thing of, oh, it's too pretty to use. With everything that I've done, and certainly with William Henry, when I started, it was, what is the finest mechanism? What is the most high level aerospace tolerance that I can imagine or that's capable of being sort of manipulated in the modern technology
Mm-hmm.
world? What are the very, very best materials, right? So that's where you start. Build an amazing tool. If you built an
Mm-hmm.
amazing tool, then you can dress it up at any level. It
Mm-hmm.
can be a 300, I mean, again, none of our stuff is inexpensive compared to sort of the mass market,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be a $300 thing or a $30,000 thing. But what's underneath it is a great tool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, and what's interesting is, um, for a lot of people, it's this too pretty to use thing. And for a whole subset of other people, these are put through remarkably difficult paces. People that are
Mm-hmm.
really sort of real hunting aficionados that are doing that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
people that are in law enforcement and in the military, you'd think, oh, this is because it's not black and heavy and hard edged and has all this attitude, it's not really functional. But in fact, what's underneath it is an extraordinary cutting tool, because otherwise it's just smoke and mirrors. And I don't want to be selling a decoration.
Right.
I want
Well,
to be selling an amazing tool that is then decorated. And there's a big difference.
yeah. You're absolutely right. And regarding the quality of what you're doing, I have well, you know that we're mainly watches in our store, watches and jewelry, and
Mhm.
we've sort of brought in your line just because of their excellent, beautiful, collectible. And there's actually a lot of crossover between watch people and people who might want to collect knives or pens or whatever. And I had a customer in a while back. He was new a little bit over a year ago, and bought a number of watches from me. And then one day we walked around the corner, and he says, "Oh, you have knives?" I said, "Oh, are you interested in knives?" He said, "Oh, I have over 300." And he picked up a William Henry, and noted how the blade fits just exactly into the case, with not skewed at all. And he said, these are considered the finest collectible pocket knives. And this guy's a pretty discerning fellow, and I thought it was a real tribute to what you do. So take it for what it's worth. So anyway, a lot of our watch guys are interested in these pieces. They are beautiful. I'm going to bring up another. Oops, we're getting a little bit of feedback going, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's your end or my end. I don't know if you're hearing that noise.
Sorry, that's my end.
Uh,
I'm in an office and there's a phone
oh,
ringing.
that's a phone. I thought it was.
Yeah,
We're getting some
sorry about that.
reverb. All
Yeah,
right, so somebody
it's
canned that
what
phone.
happens live. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So just want to note a couple more people. Blue is on. So nice to see us. It likes the blue pen. Blue would like the blue pen. And Carlos says, I would not be near Steve if I would be a bad guy. Well, I would hope not. And I don't think you are, Carlos. We know you're a gentleman. So, okay. So I don't know if you see these pieces that are up yet. No, they're not quite up. We have a beautiful pine cone handle with a blue pine cone and with the stars on uh, the case, and a special. Now I can't name the pattern of the Damascus blade, and when you see, you see it now. Um, and this beautiful little piece with the gold work in it, and a new knife that we just got in the collection. Are you seeing
Nice.
those?
I'm not
You know,
the way that my feed's set up. I don't have that other camera angle. I
okay, so
apologize. So,
yeah, so I apologize.
that's all right.
So what's coming up? What's the future in your
Oh,
company? What kinds of new ground can you till with what you've been doing? You have so much of a diverse collection already.
yeah. Well, the idea is to always keep tilling new ground and sort of stay true to the roots. So William Henry started as a knife company, right? I was a knife
Mm-hmm.
maker. And as we've expanded into money clips and pens and now jewelry and other categories that are coming, it's always trying to retain that original DNA
Mm-hmm.
and say, how do we make really amazing jewelry from the perspective that we bring, which is not as a jeweler or not as a watchmaker or anything else. We come from this particular world of sort of knives as art and
Mm-hmm.
utility combined. We got a big range of stuff, and within our collections, I've got a brand new folding knife design that's going to come out this fall with a new lock mechanism. It's a completely new thing. We're working on divot tools for golfers that are going to come out soon. Um, I'm working on kitchen knives, of all
Really?
things. Yeah,
Oh,
but
that'd be
I did
cool.
kitchen knives in the very early 2000s.
Uh-huh.
They were at the time they were quite impressive, but very expensive and maybe ahead of the
Mm-hmm.
market. Got a lot of great press, won some big awards. They were very difficult to make, but I always sort of had it in the back of my mind to come back to it. So we're heading back that way. We're working on personal leather goods, but again, not just with everything. It's not just let's make a wallet and put a WH on it,
Mm-hmm.
um, because that's the easy way out, and that's not that doesn't feel credible to the brand. It's how do we make a wallet that incorporates our materials, our precision mechanics, our stories that I think our customers love to tell, right? It's to you make a personal investment in this, and there are stories within stories with what we do. And so with any new category, we're always saying, how do we make sure that we pay attention to that DNA and find ways to bring that across, and not just start trade on brand. So
Right.
there's a lot of new stuff in the works.
That's great. So, a couple of questions from our chat. Um, Blue asks, "What's the knife nearest to the camera?" I've taken that off. But I can tell you what it is. I'll bring it back in a minute. It's the Ventana Prescott knife with a heat-colored wave Bokamei Gane on the case, and I'll bring that one back, and I also want to show a bracelet, so we'll put them together, if I may.
Yeah. Nice little side note, that heat-colored Mokame, which we call wave Mokame, which is the frame of the knife you were just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
that's actually an alloy or an alloy, patterned alloy that I designed. And I found a foundry in Japan to actually produce it for us, the raw
Mm-hmm.
stock that we can then make parts out of.
Mm-hmm.
But that particular combination of copper and pure iron and nickel silver is not something that anybody had done prior to that. But I knew that if I could get this form or these patterns within those layers, that I could use heat to really reveal that. And the iron is what gives us that amazing contrast of color with the copper and the white metal.
Yeah,
So,
beautiful, beautiful piece. I have it back up. It'll show. So, absolutely fantastic. So let's talk about the blade a little bit. My customer who so admired your line stressed the fact that how hard it is to make the design of the blade um, equal on both sides. Um, uh, those blades are made of what, 45 or so layers of metal pounded together. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah, that I'm sorry, I can't actually see the knife. If it
Mm-hmm.
has the copper imbued into the blade, it's 45. If it's just an all white and gray blade, it's actually 55
Right.
layers. And the way that that stuff is done is there's a core, sort of the center layer of that blade billet
Mm-hmm.
is a powder metal that gets extremely hard when it's properly heat treated and tempered and holds a beautiful edge, which is the point. And then
Mm-hmm.
the exterior layers that come around it are softer. That whole billet is patterned and then sort of forged back
Mm-hmm.
down together. But that core is what retains for your cutting performance. And those softer layers not only are beautiful, but add tensile strength to the blade
Mm-hmm.
so that that really hard steel isn't brittle as a blade because it's sort of compounded by these softer outer alloys. So
Okay.
again, it's both art and utility built into the original idea.
So is that formed in the shape of a blade, or is it like a billet that then gets made into
A
the
billet.
blade? It's a
Yeah,
billet, yeah.
yeah, yeah. It starts as a sort of chunky rectangle of steel that gets worked down to the
Mm-hmm.
approximate thickness, and then we actually create the blade out of that rectangle of steel one at a time. So
And you do that in your shop there,
we
or is it?
do we do a lot of it in our shop, and then we've got two sort of larger machine shops that
Mm-hmm.
are within 15 miles of our shop that'll do stuff where we don't have the sort of size and scale of equipment to do it. So
I see.
in a lot of cases, we're sourcing the material from wherever we can on the planet and then bringing it to these machine shops to give us the precision tolerances that we
Mm-hmm.
need for the mechanics. And then all of the handwork that actually reveals as a William Henry is here in the studio.
Right. So I've had up one of the bracelets, the Sunset, and with a center bead, a polished black onyx, and an 18 karat gold cage. I'm going to put it back up. And it looks like tiger eye, brown tiger eye for the rest of it. So, a nice surprise that we've had here is the acceptance of your bracelets. And
Good.
often someone will be walking by our little bracelet display of William Henry, and they'll put on the brakes suddenly, and people
Yeah.
who otherwise don't wear jewelry or thought they didn't will pick up one of these pieces. So kudos to you. Really nice designs and great materials, and we love them.
Thank you. Well, that was definitely there was a real intention again to bring our core knife DNA across,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to being a jewelry company that's mostly aimed at women who then says, oh, we need stuff for guys. Nothing wrong with that, but
Mm-hmm.
that gives you a very different aesthetic, flavor, and range of material choices. So, and we built a jewelry shop here and do, like in the case of the Sunset, we don't
Mm-hmm.
actually make the tiger eye bead, right? We buy those from a bead supplier, but everything else is here. I mean, we
Really?
do all, from design to masters to molds to casting to finishing to all of it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, to get control of that. Yeah.
So Carlos has a question. He says, "What do you make with meteorites?"
What do we make with meteorite?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we do as we are able. Meteorite is getting harder and harder to come by, or at least good meteorite. And by good, I refer to the quality of the pattern, sort of that really fine crystal pattern you'll get in meteorite, and its corrosion resistance. There's some meteorite out there that'll just rust if you look at it wrong, which isn't really a good application. But we do limited edition knives, occasionally money clips, and we're
Mm-hmm.
actually starting to play with meteorite inlay into jewelry. But it's really catch as catch can. We
Mm-hmm.
just bought a block of meteorite. I don't have it, but it's 4 inches by 6 inches by 4 inches, and it's $34,000
My goodness.
just for that block. So you're really
Mm-hmm.
getting into high level gem grade stuff. And within the
Mm-hmm.
meteorite, you get cracks and fissures you can't see. So we love the stuff. When we can get it, we'll do a 10-piece or a 25-piece edition on something, and then hope we can get more down the line. But it's hard to have sort of stably in rotation right now.
Great. We have a really nice piece in our showcase. If one of my associates is listening, they can pull it and bring it in here. We'll show it.
You got a
I
meteorite
can't leave.
piece
I'm wired tight to this show, unfortunately. So, okay. Michelle mentions that in the chat there are a few knives and dog tags, cufflinks, and bracelets, and she's going to send some pictures over. And we didn't mention the dog tags, so there are chains with different materials that often match the knife handle or something that's in a pen or money clip. So you can get yourself totally situated with an everyday carry outfit or everyday wear, if whatever you want to call
Well,
it.
it's fun with the jewelry. What's fun about it? My original inspiration was I've been doing this for a while, and I was watching the red carpet for like an Oscars event, right?
Yeah.
And rolling down the red carpet, I watched 11 really well-known celebrities walk down who were being interviewed and looked all fine,
Mm-hmm.
who were all William Henry fans. They're all collectors of William Henry. It's from Harrison Ford to Brad Pitt to Nicolas Cage to Anthony Hopkins and on and on and on, that I know have many and love William Henry's,
Mm-hmm.
but there's never a public piece of that. So there's stories we tell with meteorite, with dinosaur
Yeah.
bone, with forged Damascus and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to sort of take that DNA and give you the option to actually make it external. So when somebody says, rather, are you carrying a knife, which in some places has its own issues,
Sure.
right? Instead, hey, that's a cool bracelet. And all of a sudden you've opened the door to this story that you connect with. Like that's 100 million-year-old dinosaur bone,
Mm-hmm.
handmade in a little studio in Oregon. And those are cool stories to be able to tell externally.
Right. So, what are your recommendations on? We're talking about knives. Sometimes you can't carry them. We have people saying, "Oh well, I'll forget it and take it on a plane. Um, it's such a fine thing. I don't dare to carry it. I'll lose it somewhere." What's your recommendation on that?
Well, I think, I mean, I don't want to sound glib, but we're all in the business of talking ourselves out of reasons to buy things we really want, right?
Mm,
And William Henry is about want. It's not
yeah.
about need, right? So you can find an excuse, but like interestingly enough, just recently, you'd think I'd know better after all this time. I went through TSA with a knife, right?
Mm,
Lo and behold, TSA now has on the opposite side of TSA a automatic mailing system where the guy puts your knife into a pouch, seals
mm-hmm.
it, you put your information into a computer, pop in your credit card, and it mails straight to you. So they're getting better about at least saying you're not going to lose your knife forever if you
Mm-hmm.
make that mistake, right? That said, don't travel with a knife or put it in your checked baggage the way I do. And but in general, I think you can find reasons. I do this all the time. I really want that. Why shouldn't I get it? I'm trying to talk myself right. But if you fall in love with this, you're buying something that's not only going to serve you, and that's not only going to be a part of your life and take something that could have been a chore and turn it into a ceremony of sorts, but you're buying a piece that our intention is, my original intention and still is, it becomes part of your legacy, right? It's something that gets handed down to the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you make that connection and you have the resources, then don't talk yourself out of it, right?
Right.
Then say, yeah, that's going to make my life better in some meaningful way, and that's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely worth it. And if that's not how you connect with it, that's fine. We're just
Mm-hmm.
doing what we do. Yeah,
Okay. So, are there opportunities for personalization of your pieces at all?
a little bit.
A little bit.
So our answer up until about 6 months ago, for over 20 years, was really no.
Mm-hmm.
But we're now, we've actually bought a whole engraving system just for that, and we're starting to offer engraving on select dog tags, on select knives, where we've actually done an engraving plate, a scutcheon plate into the handle, as well as on a few pens. And now, as we're designing new things, we're looking at where is it appropriate to add that kind of personalization feature in there. And so there
Sure.
is a little bit, but it's a range within William Henry. It's not you can take anything
Mm-hmm.
and put initials or an anniversary date on it, because in a lot of cases we just designed it in such a way that there wasn't space for that without mucking up the process.
Sure. One thing that we didn't touch on is not personalization, but individualization. And every knife, I believe every knife, has a serial, a number on it, and it's a limited piece.
Mm-hmm.
So the little one with the Mokame Gane we were discussing, 100 pieces, and what do we have here? I'm trying to read it. Weird. Uh, Figure out the number 20, 70 of 100. So they're
Mm-hmm.
all pretty low numbers. Is that right? Is everything limited?
Not, it's interesting. Like when we get into jewelry, right?
Mm.
With knives, with pens, with money clips, everything is limited. Everything has its own unique
Mm-hmm.
sort of tag and number. In jewelry, often cases not, but there's a lot of things. It's odd because there's a lot of things where we said, hey, this would be cool, and then we made 31 of them,
Mm-hmm.
and we never made them again.
Right.
And yet we didn't call them a limited edition. We didn't number them to 100 or to anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is there's nothing that we do high production here, right?
Right.
In our shops and making this stuff, we actually have 27 people total across pens, knives, money clips, our jewelry shop, everything.
Right.
So the volume is, and you can see the workmanship, right? You can see the level of detail and intricacy and all the steps. So the production's really low.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly with the knives, pens, money clips, our intention was always, and we've stayed true to, these are numbered editions.
Sure. A very cool feature. So Craig Shipp, actually the host of this channel that lets us join in from time to time, is asking about service, especially sharpening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's a few different ways. So the only thing I adamantly ask people not to do with a William Henry, in terms of sharpening, is to use an electric sharpener. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Electric sharpeners tend to chew things up way more than they need to. And in one sharpening on a lot of electric sharpeners that might have been designed for knives with thicker edges to begin with, or kitchen knives that are bigger,
Mm-hmm.
you could literally do 5 years worth of wear and tear on the edge with one shot. But a diamond whetstone, or just a diamond hone, or even a traditional Arkansas or Japanese
Mm-hmm.
whetstone will work well if you're comfortable with that. Um, if you're not, you can certainly take it to a professional sharpener, or you send it back to us. And either myself or one of the two guys that I've trained here in the shop to do our sharpening will bring it back to full factory mirror razor edge, and basically all you're paying us is the return shipping cost.
Oh, that's great. Okay, really good.
And
So,
I want to say to that though, real quickly, that people get worried because of the Damascus blades, especially, that if they sharpen them, they're going to damage the Damascus. But the actual sharpened bevel is right at the bottom of the blade, and you're only sharpening that bevel back. You're not rubbing the whole face of the blade across the sharpening surface, and you shouldn't.
if you know what you're
So the
doing.
reality is you can resharpen a Damascus
Yeah,
blade without fearing damaging the pattern if
right.
you're comfortable at all with any kind of sharpening. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so what else have we not covered? Anything about your
I mean,
operation?
I have some more goodies here if we
Well,
want to
yeah,
put them up in front of
yeah.
the camera.
Show a couple of things, and while you're bringing them up, I want to we've sent out a notice, but let everybody know who's listening. We are having a William Henry show here in the store on the 7th of September, and the very lovely Michelle McNinn, who's been commenting away here, will be in attendance. She's worth the visit alone, but the knives will be good too. And that will go from 10 till 6 on Saturday the 7th. So if you're in the area, or if you're not, come on in and enjoy. There will be some drinks and food involved as well. So let's see
Well,
something, Matt.
sure. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can get this up in the thing. This is just a material that we've only used on one thing ever, and I really love it. This is a petrified wood called Gary Green, and it's only found in one place in Oregon, and it was a forest that actually got demolished apparently in the Montana region in the or maybe even earlier ice age, and got pushed all the way down to Oregon near the coast. And it ended up being this crazy striated sort of green and earth tone, and that is naturally how it is. And there's no other petrified wood in the world that looks like it. So it polishes like agate because it's that
Mm.
hard. It's truly petrified, and it's just a cool Northwest story that we're able to tell in this limited edition pen with with our spring-loaded wave lock
Mm.
mechanism and accents of sorry, I lost you. Accents of Mocha-e and carbon fiber and titanium and all the rest of it, but just a cool piece. And again, really cool story. So
Good.
yeah.
While you're at it, you're flashing a watch there. What is it?
So my daily wear is an Oris.
Okay. Oh,
I'm
okay.
yeah
That brings up something. I'm going to be doing a live stream with Oris next Friday. So
there you
tune in.
go.
There's a big reveal coming, guys.
Yeah, I have one or two fancier ones that occasionally come out, but
Yeah.
I'm whacking around the shop and I go surfing whenever I can, and the Oris just does the job. So
You don't need to apologize for Oris. They're
yeah.
fabulous.
No, they're great watches. They're great
Yeah.
watches. So
Great. That's interesting. Go ahead. What else do you have?
um some we'll pull out a little bit of random craziness here.
Hmm.
So here I'm gonna see if I can get this into the camera. This guy,
Oh, wow.
you see this?
Yes.
So this is probably the most ambitious pendant we've ever built. This is solid 18 karat gold inlaid on one side with a frosted black onyx and on the other side with a natural white mother of pearl and with tiny seed pearls set all the way around the 18 karat gold. And it's done on a hand beaded, which again, this whole thing happens right in our studio on a hand tied and beaded onyx chain with matching. There we go. Sorry about this. My approach to the camera with
Yeah.
a rose gold clasp. So I think we've only made 7 or 8 of those ever.
Hmm.
Tend to try to keep one, and then but that's fun stuff. And I think this is, I don't know if Steve, if you guys have ever had any of this,
I
but
haven't
this is
had it. I know what that is, though. Beautiful.
yeah. So this is Maki-e, which is this Japanese technique of creating tinted um, sort of high carat gold powder and using that powder through very finely made bamboo straws in lacquer to create basically permanent paintings in gold. And in this case, so this is one artist that we work with in Japan. We only get 20 to 25 pieces a year from him. That's all we can get. And he's doing this work on jade. Um, so we make this knife in jade and hand forged Damascus. And once it's all done, we take the jade scales off, send them to Japan, and 4 to 5 months later, this amazing artwork comes back, and we're doing either one-offs or 5 or 10 piece limited editions. But it's just one of those old world craftsmanship techniques that I'm just thrilled to be able to say we can put this onto a knife canvas. Really
Beautiful.
cool.
So
Yeah.
I hope Michelle's able to bring one of those to our event. And interestingly, there were dealers for Grand Seiko, and some of our Grand Seiko dials incorporate Maki-e techniques.
Hmm.
Maybe you're both feeding off the same artisan over there. Who knows?
I don't. There's a few people doing it, and I don't
Yeah.
think so because he's
Okay.
literally a one-man shop. I don't think you
Okay.
could keep up with Seiko even at a small level. But yeah,
Very,
it's
very
beautiful.
limited. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Um, you want to see an engraved piece? You want to see here? We'll throw this up for good measure. This is the kind of stuff that at your trunk show next
Hmm.
month that Michelle actually brings. So for any of you listening who might be thinking about coming to the trunk show, the amazing thing is not only will you see Steve's inventory, but you'll see what Michelle brings as our factory person, which is just a whole crazy range of really beautiful work from William
Yeah.
Henry.
Pull
That
it
really,
back.
I think,
Pull it back toward you a little bit. It'll be in better
back.
focus. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll pull this one open. This guy is a one of a kind piece. It
Hmm.
actually has a 600 layer Damascus blade, the most complicated Damascus we ever work with. We can only do about 50 blades like this a year because one guy in the world can make this pattern. And we get what we can from him. And then it's got about 120 hours of hand engraving in the frame. So I don't know how well it registers on the camera, but this is a one of a kind piece that's, yeah, will it cut? Absolutely. And it
Yeah.
equally belongs in a museum. So
Yeah.
cool stuff.
Fabulous. So, Blue asks, show us some more 18 karat gold pendants. I don't know if you have any at hand.
I
If
have one.
Oh, you do. Okay, show it.
I have one.
Let's see it.
I have one. So the last one was that big bold rose gold piece. See if I can get this to work in the camera. So here we are.
Oh yeah, skull.
Yep. Yeah, the sugar skull, our classic sugar skull, or it's become kind of a classic in 18 karat yellow. When we're working in gold, we're only working in 18 karat um, with rubies, natural rubies hand set into the eyes on an 18 karat gold chain. So, it's hard to sort of get it with the light here,
That's
but not too big, but a
pretty
real strong
good.
stick.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, okay, when we signed you up for this, we were told, okay, Matt will come on, but just half an hour.
Yeah.
And I think we've
Yeah.
overrun your time budget here, but we've had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And I haven't met you in person, but I can tell that we get along very well if we got together and had a beer. And I hope when you make it to the East Coast, or if I make it out there, we do get to meet. And someday I'd love to take a tour of your plant there. It just sounds
Yeah.
fabulous.
Well, it'd be my honor to show it to you, and yeah, hopefully someday you can give me a tour of Little Treasury too.
I'd
So,
love to, love to.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
thanks to you and your team for going ahead and putting this together. So
Of
I'll
course.
let you
Thank you for
sign.
having us. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And then Michelle, who's listening, we will see you very shortly next week, and look forward to our event together. Thank
All
you
right.
so much, Matt. Been
Yeah.
great
Thank you.
having you.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
So, okay, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed it. And Blue, yes, please talk to me on the 18 karat skull. I don't know where you're located, but if you can make it into our show, that would be great. I also want to remind everyone about a couple of things coming up. Again, we have the William Henry Show. I am doing another live stream scheduled for next Friday, where I'll be bringing in someone from Oris for a major announcement and a bit of a scoop, I think. And love to have you to that. And please, everybody, put on your calendar October 18th and 19th for our Time Out annual watch fair, which will be an outstanding event again. And bring your game. We will have our watch wardrobing contest again at 2 o'clock on the 19th. And we'll have some significant prizes for the person who best matches his or her watch with their outfit, their car, their shoes, or the best story on why they love their watch. And in addition, we will be having a special guest, Barbara Palumbo, who does What's on Her Wrist. She's a well-known watch blogger and writer, and also blogs on jewelry. And she's a very interesting lady, and she'll be there and help officiate our contest. So a lot of exciting things going on, and I thank you all for watching. And Blue is mentioning, oh yeah, you're the golden snowflake person, right? I sometimes don't get the handles with the names, so let's match that golden snowflake with that golden pendant. How about that? So with that, I'm going to find my little beeper, if I can track it down, and going to sign off. And I thank all of you for hanging in for this, and I hope you enjoyed it. So with that, we are going to stop the show. So take care, everybody.